Let's go to the president's tweet this morning, if we can. What proof does President Trump have when he says Congresswoman Wilson is not telling the truth? Are there recordings of his phone call with Maisha Johnson?
No, but there were several people in the room from the administration that were on the call, including the Chief of Staff, General John Kelly.
The president also said that he has called every family of someone who's died. Is that true?
The president's made contact with all of the families that have been presented to him through the White House Military Office.
There have been families that have since come forward in this to the Associated Press. Their names are in these reports who say they've not actually heard from this White House in any capacity.
All of the individuals that the president has been presented with through the proper protocol have been contacted through that process.
What exactly is the president denying? Is he denying that he ever spoke these words to the widow, that that he must have known what he signed up for, or is he just saying that she took it the wrong way and it was taken out of context? His words?
The president's call, as accounted by multiple people in the room, believed that the president was completely respectful, very sympathetic, and expressed the condolences of himself and the rest of the country, and thanked the family for their service, commended them for having an American hero in their family, and I don't know how you could take that any other way.
It wasn't that he didn't say those words, it was that the context. He felt that she put it in the wrong context. Is that it?
I'm not going to get into the back and forth. I think that the sentiment of the president was very clear. He took the time to make a call to express his condolences, to thank the family for this individual's service, and I think it frankly is a disgrace of the media to try to portray an act of kindness like that and that gesture, and to try to make it into something that it isn't. Peter.
Sarah, did the president speak to his Chief of Staff, General John Kelly, before invoking his son's death and what has become a political argument?
I know he's spoken to General Kelly multiple times yesterday and today.
On this very topic, in other words, did General Kelly know he would be raising the issue of his son's memory when talking about the outreach?
I'm not sure if he knew of that specific comment, but they had certainly spoken about it, and he's aware, and they've spoken several times since then.
So can you describe how General Kelly feels about it? Is he comfortable with the way his son's memory?
I think that General Kelly is disgusted by the way that this has been politicized, and that the focus has become on the process and not the fact that American lives were lost. I think he's disgusted and frustrated by that. And if he has any anger, it's towards that.
Sarah.
April.
Sarah, Congresswoman Wilson, I talked to her a couple of hours ago, and she says that this is the president's Benghazi. She says that that Jackson was, and the Green Berets were in Niger trying to find out information and doing a mission about Boko Haram. And she said that his transmitter was still emitting for 2 days, emitting a signal when he was located. And she says that makes no sense why he wasn't located. What say you about that? And also, what do you say about her comment that he did not know, and the wife, the widow, said that the president did not know his name? He kept saying, "Your guy, your guy."
Just because the president said your guy, I don't think that means that he doesn't know his name. As the president stated, the hardest job he has is making calls like that. I think it is appalling what the Congresswoman has done and the way that she's politicized this issue and the way that she is trying to make this about something that it isn't. This was a president who loves our country very much, who has the greatest level of respect for men and women in the uniform, and wanted to call and offer condolences to the family. And I think to try to create something from that the Congresswoman is doing is frankly appalling and disgusting.
What did you say about what she said about Boko Haram and Niger? What did you say about what she said about the mission and been comparing?
As I said to Major before, I'm not going to get into the details of that action at this point.
Was she right?
As I said before, I'm not going to get into the details of that action at this time, and when we have further information, I'll be happy to discuss it with you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. I just want to, setting aside the Congresswoman, setting aside the discussion about the politicization of this, the woman who raised Sergeant Johnson spoke to the Washington Post and said she felt like her son had been disrespected. And again, I'm not asking about what Congresswoman Wilson had to say, I'm not asking about any of that, but given that somebody who has, as you rightly note, making these phone calls is probably one of the hardest things a commander-in-chief has to do. Given that, is the president at all reconsidering the way that he communicates with these families? Has General Kelly counseled him on perhaps how he might want to choose or change his words in the future?
General Kelly was present for the call and thought it was completely appropriate. He thought the call was respectful, and he thought that the president did the best job he could under those circumstances to offer condolences on behalf of the country.
And was empathetic
Philip.
enough, Sarah? Was there part, is that
On
part of it?
NAFTA, the Canadian and the Mexican negotiators have rejected the U.S. proposals that were described as unconventional and troubling. Is NAFTA dead?
Not yet, but as the president said, it's a bad deal, and he wants to make sure that we have a deal that benefits American workers. That's what this administration is focused on. We're going to continue to push forward, and if we can't get there, then we'll let you know what the changes are. Francesca.
Thank you, Sarah. In a tweet this morning, President Trump said that former FBI Director James Comey lied, leaked, and totally protected Hillary Clinton. He also asked, where is the Justice Department on this? What exactly does the president want the Justice Department to do? Is he calling for a prosecution of James Comey? What's he asking for here?
Look, the White House hasn't and won't offer a legal opinion on Comey's conduct. But in fact, to the contrary, the White House has actually deferred, as it should, any and all legal questions regarding Director Comey to the Department of Justice. That's the appropriate venue for those things to be dealt
What's he asking the Department of Justice to do, though, in his tweet this morning? That's what I'm asking.
We refer any legal action to the Department of Justice. Anything on that front would be handled by them. Sarah.
Sarah, normally when the president is upset about something, we hear from him pretty quickly about it, whether it's an issue with the senator, whether it's an issue with the NFL. So why did it take nearly 2 weeks for him to say something about this ISIS ambush, not to reach out for the families necessarily, but even to offer public condolences or to explain to the American public what happened and how the deadliest combat mission involving American troops went so wrong?
As I said before, there is a protocol for that, but there's also, we did make public remarks from the administration. I know I did in short order after that happened from the podium at the direction of the president, and I speak on his behalf, and I did that on behalf of the president and the administration.
Sarah, you brought up politicizing a couple of times in relation to Congresswoman Wilson, but did the president politicize General Kelly's son's death by bringing it up as a defense for his claims about what past presidents did or did not do with
He
fallen
was
soldiers?
responding to a question and stating a fact.
Just to clarify your earlier answer, you're not denying that in some point in the conversations the president used the words, "It's what he signed up for."
I spoke specifically to the sentiment that was offered by the president. I didn't get into the details of a personal call because I don't find that to be that appropriate.
Sarah, thanks. Does the president feel as a matter of principle that it is not adequate to simply send a letter of condolence to the family of a slain service person, as President Bush and President Obama typically did? And does he feel that it was not adequate for President Obama to have sent a letter to General Kelly but not called General Kelly on the death of his son?
I don't think that there's anything that any president can do. There's never going to be enough that a president can do for the families of those that are killed in action. The point the president was making is that there's a different process. Sometimes they call, sometimes they write letters, sometimes they engage directly. The comments were certainly, I think, taken very far out of context by the media, and if there's any frustration, I think that's where it should be focused. John Decker.
Thank you, Sarah. A question about the NFL. Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, earlier today said that all players should stand during the playing of the national anthem. Earlier this week, there was no change in policy as it relates to the NFL mandating that all players in the NFL stand for the national anthem. Does the president believe that he's winning this argument or has won this argument as it relates to what he said about whether players should stand for the playing of the national anthem?
I think it's certainly a step in the right direction. As we've said many times before, the president supports standing for the national anthem, saluting the flag, and honoring those men and women in uniform that fight to protect it. Trey?
Thank you, Sarah. You opened up at the top discussing the liberation of Raqqa. So my question for you is, how does the president envision future U.S. involvement in both Syria and Iraq post-ISIS?
We want to continue to work with our coalition forces to completely destroy and defeat ISIS. Right now, that's the priority, and that's the focus, and that's what we're going to continue to be focused on at this time. Thank you guys so much for today, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Sarah.